My name is Catherine Healy and I'm the historian in residence here at EPIC, the Irish Emigration Museum. Welcome to Looking East, our exhibition on historic connections between Ireland and India. Irish people have had a presence in India going back to the 17th century, and today Ireland is home to a diverse and growing Indian community. Some of them first-generation immigrants, others born to Indian parents in Ireland. Here are some of their stories.
So my name is Kaveri Madhavan, and I came to Ireland in 1986. I was only 23 years old, and I've lived longer here than I ever did in India.
My name's Leo Varadkar. I'm the former Taoiseach or former Prime Minister of Ireland.
Hello, I'm Pradeep from India, and my pronouns is he, they. And I'm in Ireland for 12 years.
Díogryth, Trástar Sebastian Zanam Dum, August is Gail Injak May.
My name is Satwinder Singh. I came to Ireland in end of 2003 as an international student.
My first impressions of Ireland, well, we arrived from a city of 12 million to Sligo, and it was such a cultural shock in reverse, really. Growing up in India, the West, what we thought, my impression of the West anyway was, it was all about sex, drugs and rock and roll. And then I arrived in Sligo in 1986. My first impression was we absolutely loved it, but it was a bit of a shock. Wasn't what I expected.
I grew up in big city like Bombay. That is a massive, massive city. You can see people everywhere, very diverse language, smell, visuals. So all your senses, you feel that diversity all the time, wherever you go. My first impression of Ireland is beautiful, fresh air. First time I stepped down at my plane, first thing I sensed that, this air is so fresh, it's so different than London or Mumbai. It wasn't that diverse at that time.
The Ireland I grew up in the 1980s was not the diverse country that it is now. 15 to 20% of people in Ireland were not born in Ireland now, but it would have been very different back then. People left, emigrated for a better life abroad, never came back, and very few people came to live in Ireland. I would have been one of the only people, I think, in my school or class growing up that was a person of colour that had a Indian surname. That is so totally different now, with a very big Indian community in Ireland.
When I came to Ireland, I being a visible migrant, having a turban and beard and being a practicing Sikh, I had quite a few challenges to face, especially after 9/11. Irish community wasn't very aware about Sikhs, so they associated turban and beard with, Osama bin Laden and all the negative reporting which was telecast over the television and media. So we had quite a challenging work as an individual, as a community, to tackle that.
I think there are quite a number of historical similarities. We are, of course, hugely different countries on different sides of the world, and we're very small, and India, of course, is very big. But among the very definite historical similarities, the fact that we were both ruled by Britain for a prolonged period of time, a history of a struggle for independence, also divisions on religious lines, and, of course, ultimately partition, which I suppose between India and Pakistan is probably something that's now accepted as being permanent. A slightly different situation here in Ireland, where we look ahead to the possibility of unification. And then also, I think, some very ancient and very old cultural links. Often remark on the fact that if you take in the Irish language and you count to 4, it's Hein Do Tri Car, and in Hindi it's Hein Do Ti Char. So it's interestingly how close some of those very old words are. And then, of course, some really interesting connections, I think, in poetry and literature as well.
We have all the similar colonial hang-ups. Apart from that, they both are societies that are completely colored by an obsession with religion, family, and food. And the similarities are so stark. And it was one of the things that made us feel very much at home, because I found with my next door neighbors had the exact same issues as women, as mothers, as wives.
Ireland at present has this beautiful point where everything is changing around. I have seen so many people past 5 years coming from India they're coming just to come out as gay, bisexual, and lesbian, non-binary, trans. And that was my realization that there should be some group, some organization, some community level cultural activism to create the space that will give them some sense of hope. That is the inception thought of the Queer Asian Pride Ireland. We come here with our queer identity, hoping that we will find safe space here. But our own Indian community also homophobic, and people bring their homophobia and their prejudices with them, and that makes us more isolating, and that makes us more demand from Ireland that is up to hold this Irish leadership who is mono-ethnic. They need to sit down and think beyond marriage equality, what is on their plate, and what are they doing with the hopes and dreams of so many LGBTQ plus migrants.
The one thing we did to tackle racism or create intercultural understanding within our community is actually participating in whatever way we can. You can use a lot of positive things from the culture and contribute to the society. Like Seva, like Gurdwara, I'll give you an example how. So during COVID, the Gurdwara served some 50,000 meals to frontline workers, to the hospitals, to Garda stations, to homeless people. And this comes from the Sikh tradition of serving food to the needy. And such a small community took initiative. And this is what else you need when you are in a difficult situation. We come forward and help each other. There is a Gurdwara in Serpentine Avenue. That's our hub. Gurdwara is a backbone of the community. I couldn't imagine establishment of the community in the absence of Gurdwara. It's home away from home, not only for Sikhs, but for other Indians as well. So in last 9 months, around 1,200 school kids have visited the Gurdwara and learned about Sikhism and Sikh community. So I would volunteer to give them a lecture, tour of the place and share the history of our Sikh community culture. So it's a very successful initiative. We can see the change in the attitude of teachers and school kids, and it makes massive difference. As I said, we do tree planting. So we established 2 forests actually, the one in Temple Glantine and another one in Gracetown County, Wicklow. So in the last 2 years with our partner, we have planted some 30,000 trees.
My work in the climate movement or the environmental space didn't really start until 2018. I'd gone back home in 2018 to Kerala for my cousin's wedding, and during those times there were quite torrential floods that no one had really expected, to the point where practically most of my state was submerged. I was quite fortunate to be able to go back to Ireland after that and kind of coming back to my warm, safe home and realising that not everyone else had that privilege, but also the finiteness of this issue is that the climate crisis is going to affect everyone. And I couldn't bear with myself if I didn't do more to protect not just India, but also Ireland. Often when I do a lot of negotiation work and sort of international relations, it's quite important to me to be able to represent the people that I love. So when I go to UN conferences and I'm speaking on climate issues, I bring these 2 objects. This is soil from my home in India, just so that I always have India close to me. And then this is a wee bracelet that says Ninyarki Karlahela, which is a phrase, a Shanakal that is quite close to me as well. The idea that there is no strength without unity. And I sort of bring it in internationally to mean, the people united will never be defeated. And that sort of community and that sort of organising is things that I've seen both in India and in Ireland. And it is a way for me to kind of have both my homes, both my cultures, and both my identities with me as I advocate and as I represent. And I do my part to ensure that I am protecting both of my homes.
This is a badge of the Connaught Rangers regiment. It's a cap badge. And the Connaught Rangers were, very illustrious regiment. They had a long, 200-300 year history and had served all over the British Empire in various campaigns and battles. In 1920, they actually mutinied in India because of what was happening with the Black and Tans in Ireland. And it was the mutiny was quelled very quickly because the British knew that if that mutiny had spread to other Irish regiments, there would have been massive repercussions for the empire in India. The tragedy of that mutiny is not the mutiny itself, but what happened to the soldiers who returned after independence, after Ireland got her independence. Some of them, they had their sentences commuted. When they returned home, they found it really, really hard to get jobs. They were ostracized. Most of them died in abject poverty, which also meant that their families, who lived in poverty, died in poverty. And I just knew there was a story there to be written. I had just finished my second book, and I was looking for a subject to write about. Very quickly, the more I researched it, the more I was drawn to it.
So I visited India officially back in 2011. I was only recently appointed as a member of cabinet, and I had a chance to represent Ireland for the St. Patrick's Day period in India, which was very pleasant, very good experience. And then I visited again in 2019. That was an unofficial visit, and went with my partner Matthew. And my dad had just turned 80, so in many ways he wanted us to go as a family. I was really glad to visit Malwan, which is the main town near Tivrad, which is the village from which my family originally came from. And I remember distinctly being in the council chamber there and seeing a picture of my uncle, Sunil Varadkar, who had been mayor and member of the council there. I've never seen myself as coming from a political family, because neither of my parents were involved in politics or joined a political party, but it did awaken something in me, that there is something running in my blood that is very political. And it was just kind of fascinating to see his picture there as somebody who had been mayor, to sit in the seat where he would have sat as a councillor.
As a first generation immigrant, you do fall between the two places. When I go back to India, I get the feeling that I'm not fully Indian. And of course in Ireland, even though I've been here for so long, I've been an Irish citizen for so long, I'm always somebody's Indian friend, So you do fall in between in between two spaces, and it can be quite hard. Your identity is neither here nor there, and I'm still coming to terms with it. I find it hard.
When I first went back as a young teenager, it was quite hard for me to kind of grasp that difference between living in Ireland for the majority of my life, but still being someone who's Indian. But in the last few years, I've sort of improved on both parts of my identity. I've learned more Irish. I've bettered my mother tongue. And now when I go back, I do feel quite a strong connection, specifically to the natural land as well as the people. And it is a sense of pride for me to be like, I am both Irish and Indian.
One good thing happened to me was rediscovery of my own identity, Sikh identity. I understood it in a different context, in a better way, and I now feel completely at home in Ireland. There are challenges in the society, but I feel that they can be overcome.
Someone very special in my life, that person gave me this hat and I got Irish citizenship, and it feels nice. It feels like it's like home. I still have this moment. I just remember that day, and now holding Irish passport feels so nice.
Being part of this new Irish, it also has a sense of responsibility for me, as I don't look like your generic Irish person. I think that to me is a responsibility to sort of break the mold that I am Irish and that Irish people can look like me too. So now it is a sense of pride, and I hold the Irish people with a lot of love in my heart, and I love Ireland for what it is, for what we stand for.
India for me now is my place of birth, and Ireland is my home.